Welcome back to our programming Windows Forms application tutorial. This is lesson 3. We're still on lesson 3. So the first part of lesson 3, we looked at the whole lesson 3 is about creating a practical application with a practical Windows Forms application, and we said we are going to divide it into sub parts. That's the whole of lesson 3. So we looked at, in the first part of lesson 3, we looked at how to we looked at statement of the problem. That we kind of defined, we gave an outline of what kind of program we're going to create. And we said we're going to create a travel allowance calculator, and we wrote down the details of what we expect the program to achieve. So these are the details of the program. They're a very simple program, but which we looked at in the overview, and we said it was going to be very useful in cutting down the time it takes to carry out the tasks of calculating the travel allowance. So in the second part, that was in the first part, we looked at the overview. In the second part, we went into Visual Studio and we designed the user interface. It wasn't very pretty, but it's just to show you what a user interface looks like. So this was the user interface we created, and we said in this lesson, that's in the third part, we're going to start um, writing the real engine of the program. That's what's going to control how the program is going to behave, and that's actually coding out the program. So in the first thing I would like to do, as you can see, when we designed our user interface, if we run this program now, you see, the user is supposed to be able to select states or state capitals in here, but you can see it's empty. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how you can populate the contents of a combo box. Okay, so this is a combo box, this is a combo box. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to populate the content, so that when we run the program, we'll see that the user can select some items in here. Okay. So like we saw in the sample web-based program, the things that are going to be populated in here are just names of state capitals in Nigeria. Okay, so now if you think about what's the best type of data that we can use to represent the name of states, or name of state capitals, the best data type obviously is a string. Okay, so a string can hold, remember, we're not holding numbers, we just want to be able to hold names of state capitals. So it's a string we're going to hold. But the way the combo box works, as we're going to see shortly, is that you see, because you're not just storing one particular string. So for example, Abuja is just one string, right? We want it to be able to hold multiple state capitals. So it's going to be multiple strings. And the best data type for holding multiple strings is a list. Remember our arrays is either an array or a list. Anyone you use is will work. Okay, so you just need an enumerable item. Okay, an item that implements the enumerable interface. Okay, I know we've done interface, but by now, as I'm saying these words, they shouldn't be something new to you. You should like have an idea what they mean. Okay, so any object or any class that implements the enumerable interface is, I know we haven't looked at the enumerable interface. By the way, enumerable interface is completely different from enumerations. I know we looked at enumerations. They are not the same thing. Okay, enumerable interface is an interface. It comes with .NET. Okay, it's the interface that is used to create so many different classes. Like, for example, the list class. I know we didn't see what the code of the list class actually looks like, but if you should have the opportunity to look at the code of a list class, that's the list class we looked at, the one that we said is a dynamic array, allows you to create a dynamic array. That class actually implements an IEnumerable interface. Okay, the IEnumerable interface just says something like whatever object implements me must be countable. Okay, it must be enumerable. That it must be able to provide say items in numeric forms, like concrete sorry, not concrete, discrete. It must be able to list items discretely. I don't know if this is making any sense to you, but we're just going to go ahead and use a list, and hopefully with extra reading, I'm sure you'll get around what we're saying. So the main thing we're interested in now is just to show you how we can populate this combo box. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the code. Remember how to open the code while you're in while you're in design view. You right click on the form and then you click on view code. F7 is the key shortcut key in case you don't want to right click and click. You can just hit F7 while you've selected the form. Okay, so I'm going to go into view code, and this is the code for the form 1 class. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list. Okay, that list is going to hold all the states or all the state capitals. Okay, and notice where I'm going to create the list. I'm going to create the list inside this form 1 class. Okay, it's going to be a member of the form 1 class, and I'm going to make it private. And the reason I'm going to make it private is because we're only going to use it within the form 1 class. Okay, we're not going to call it from outside the form 1 class. Okay, so that's why I'm making it private. So private list, and we said it's going to be of string data type. So the list can hold strings, and the name I'm going to give it, that's the identifier for the variable that will hold a reference, or that will reference that list object. Okay, is going to be let's call it state capitals, or we can just call it states. Okay, we know it's the names of state capitals in there, but we can just call it states, right? Okay, maybe state capitals is more. Okay, let's just call it state capitals. Okay, so that's the name of the variable that will hold a reference to the list object. And remember, after this is declaration, we've declared the state capitals. Next thing, we need to initialize it. Okay, and to initialize it, we're going to say actually we can do it on the same line. So we can declare and initialize on the same line. So is equal to new list of string, and then don't forget your brackets. So this is the initialization of the dynamic array. Okay, so if you remember the dynamic array from our lessons in C#, if you haven't looked at it, I recommend you go and look up the previous lessons. Okay, where we treated dynamic arrays and the lists. So you would see why we're writing it like this. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to populate the array. Okay, and we're supposed to populate the array before before we populate that. We're going to populate this array. Okay, and then we're going to use this array to populate the two different what do you call it, the two different combo boxes. Okay, so we're going to use, first we'll populate this, then at the beginning when the program starts, we're going to use this to populate the two different combo boxes. Okay, so to do that, we're going to come in here where it says form one. So this, when initialize component is called, the form is going to be initialized. Okay, now that's one place we can actually put this. We can actually put this here. That we can write the code to populate the array here, or we could wait. We could say when the form has been loaded, and to do that, we'll have to create we'll have to create like an event, which okay, let's just skip the event creation of the event part until we reach a button. Okay, the click of a button. Let's just write our code here to make things simple. Okay, so we're going to populate the array here. We're going to say state capitals is equal to, and now we can just give it an array, actually not equal to, state capitals dot add range. Remember the add range method. The add range method of an array takes another array and just joins it to the previous array. So right now the array is empty, so we take another array and just join it to this. It's going to populate it with the new list we're given it. So we can use the add range. Now this is one way. Obviously we can also keep adding the states one by one. It depends. It all depends on you, the programmer, how you want to do it. Okay, so in the add range method, what we're going to do is we're going to create an array in here, and this is how I believe to populate. No, this is not how to do it. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, let's try the square brackets. No, doesn't work. Okay, if I can't remember how to use the add range method with an array, with a new array, what I'm going to do is we'll just use the add method. Okay, so let's just stick to the add method, which is straightforward. So with the add method, we're going to be adding the items one by one. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, since I already have the list of the state capitals already hard coded in my previous program, the web-based program, we'll just go there and grab the list and just come in here and populate it. Okay, so let's go and look for that. Okay, it's in here. Authors KM calculator. This is the JavaScript code. I believe it should be in here. No, it shouldn't be inside the JavaScript. I believe it should be inside the HTML code where I populated the select option box. So let's open this with Sublime Text, and we should be able to see where did I populate it in here. Okay, I think I didn't. Okay, so it's in the JavaScript code. Okay, so we'll go back and look for the JavaScript code. So it's not in here. It should be in here. Open with Sublime. Okay, so this the this for the distance data, and this here we are. This, okay, these are actually the arrays. Okay, here is it. These are the cities. Okay, so I'll just grab these and copy that. By the way, I think it might have been better we named our array cities instead of state capitals in our. So I've copied that, by the way, and I'll just go back to Visual Studio, and I'm going to just paste them in here. Notice that if I paste them, they don't really make any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting these one by one and then pasting them in here. Okay, this is the first one, put a semicolon. We'll take the second one, so we're going to repeat this, and the next state capital should be Abeokuta. So I'll just take this, cut, and I'll replace this with this. Okay, this is going to take some time, so I'll just pause the video and go go ahead and finish adding the states and then come back. Okay, so just notice what I'm doing. I'm just taking these and populating it in here using state capitals dot add. Okay, we're using the add method. So I'll just pause the video. Welcome back. So I've finished the population of the state capitals array. So this is what it looks like now. Notice state capitals dot add Abakaliki, Abeokuta, Abuja, up to Yola. So these are all the state capitals, and this is how you populate it. You populate the array. Also notice they are in alphabetical order, just like they are in the distances. Remember the distances array that we looked at, the distances pyramid that we looked at. So that configuration of the distances pyramid coincides with this configuration, okay? Because it's the first distances array that you look at, or in the pyramid, coincides with the distances of Abakaliki, okay? Okay, so but after populating the state capitals inside this state capitals array, the next thing I'm going to do, okay, just to make this visible, I'm just going to minimize this. Okay, I've minimized it a bit, so I've minimized that window so that you can see everything in there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, notice I'm still within this form 1 class inside this form 1 constructor. Okay, so this code was written inside the form 1 constructor, even though it was the state capitals was declared within the form 1 class, but it is the population of the actual state capitals array is done inside the form 1 constructor. Okay, so this is the form 1 constructor. So still inside the form 1 constructor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this state capitals and use it to populate the items of those two combo boxes. Okay, remember we already know the names of the combo boxes. If you come to the form 1 design view, you click on the combo box, that's the first one. Now go to the properties window, look for the name property. So if you look for the name property, this is the name property. This is the name of this combo box. Okay, so it's start point combo box. The name of this one, if you remember, is end point combo box. Okay, so let's go back to our code view, and that start point combo box is what I want. Okay, so I'm going to say start point combo box dot which property is going to allow me to populate these items. Now the property is the data source property. Okay, so I'm going to set the data source property as this to point to this state capitals array. Okay, so if it points to that, it means it's going to that combo box, it's going to go to this array to fetch the data for that to show to the user. Okay, so I'm going to say start point combo box dot data source. Notice the data D is capital D, S is capital S, dot data source is equal to, and I'm going to say state capitals. Okay. Okay, put a semicolon. Okay, notice how you're writing it. Okay, next I'm going to do the same thing for the endpoint combo box. Is going to also point to the same data source. Okay, so the data source is equal to state capitals. Okay, so it means these two lines of code are going to be executed when the form is constructed. Okay, after calling initialize component, which actually constructs the form, and then after the form is visible, these two, well, first these are the array, state capitals array is populated, and then it uses that array to populate the data source of the start point combo box, and uses the same array to populate the data source of the endpoint combo box. Okay, so at this point we can actually run the program and see what it looks like now. Okay, so I've clicked on play button, and you can see if you click on that little triangle, that little arrow, you can now see that it is populated. The combo box is populated, and you can actually select any of the states. Okay, now the only problem you will notice is that, notice what happens if I select Abeokuta. Immediately the one for the endpoint also selects Abeokuta. Okay, it immediately changes that. Now why is that happening? The reason that is happening is because we're actually pointing the two combo boxes to the same, exactly the same data source. Okay, now that is why anyone you change, it's going to change it to the other one. Okay, so this is not exactly what we want. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create two different arrays. Okay, it means we're going to create two different arrays. One is going to be the data source for this. The only thing is that the arrays are going to be different objects, but we can actually clone one of the object to create the other one. Okay, that's the original array. We clone it to create the other one. In fact, I think the best thing we should do is we should keep the state capitals as the original array and then make two clones of that state capital to create two different objects which are exactly the same type, as exactly the same exactly the same they will have exactly the same objects as the original one. Okay, and then we point the data source for this one to the first clone, and we point the data source for this one to the second clone. Okay, all right, let's go and do that. Also, another thing I would like us to do is for the clones, we're going to make them to be capitalized, so that I don't like the way these are written in small letters. So we're going to make them to write the states in capital letters. Okay, so let's go back to the code view and see how we're going to do that. So here, rather than say start point combo box the data source equals state capitals, what we're going to do first, after populating the state capitals array, remember we're going to create two clones of the state capitals. Okay, so we're going to create another array. Okay, we can actually create the arrays here, so we can declare the two other arrays here. Private list of string. We're going to call this start point. Start point. Should we say entries? Start point entries and endpoint entries. So start point entries is equal to new list list of string. Okay, and then private list string endpoint entries is equal to new list of string. Okay, so notice what we're doing now. What we're doing now is we're just declaring and initializing the variable that will point to the clones of the original state capitals that we populated here. Okay, so that these we're not yet cloning them here. We're just declaring the variables that will hold the clones. Okay, all right, next we're going to do the clones here. Notice there are various different ways you can actually create clones for an array, but for this one, since we're going to be changing the case into uppercase, that's for this one, I would prefer to do it this way. I'm going to create a loop. So I'm going to say for each. It's going to be a for each loop. For each string, we're going to say s, or call it city, in state capitals. By the way, this for each loop, I'm pretty sure this shouldn't be something new to you. Okay, this code should be straightforward to you. If you don't know why I'm writing it this way, please head back to where we treated dynamic lists, and you'll see where we treated for each loop, and you'll see what this code means. Okay, the reason I'm just going quick, I'm trying to be fast, so I don't have to repeat myself. Okay, we've already treated for each loop. Okay, so this should be straightforward. So for each string city in state capitals, we're going to say we're now going to call this start point entries. Start point entries dot add. Now what we're going to add is going to be city dot to uppercase. Okay, dot to upper. Now what city dot to upper does is that if you look okay, city dot to upper actually returns, oh okay, yeah, it does return a string. Okay, I thought it was a void method. It actually returns a string, so we can actually write it this way. Okay, so when you call a string dot to upper, it's going to change all the letters of that particular string to uppercase letters, and then it's going to return a new, that's it's going to return a copy of that string, and that string is going to have all its letters in uppercase. Okay, so remember, this is to upper is a method, so you have to add your two brackets. Okay, so city dot to upper, and then use a semicolon. Okay, the same thing with the endpoint entries. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to say endpoint entries dot add city dot to upper. Okay, so this is going to clone city, and remember, because it's in a loop, it's going to do it for each item in state capitals. That's for each of the city, it's going to clone it, and while the clone is going to be in uppercase letters. Okay, and that is it. That's the use of the for each loop. You can see how powerful the for each loop is in this case. Okay, and with this, the next thing we're going to do is, rather than say start point combo box, the data source is state capitals, instead we're going to say is start point entries, and for the endpoint data source, we're going to say is endpoint entries. Okay, so with this, I believe we should have different behavior. Since they are two different objects, we should have different behaviors for the data source of the start point and for the data source of the endpoint. So let's go ahead and run this program and see what happens. Okay, so you can see right now they are in capital letters, like I said. Also, if you change, so if I select Orca here, it doesn't change what is here because they are two different objects. This is a clone, this is another clone of the original, which we didn't actually use here. Okay, the original state capitals array is stored, it still remains in our RAM. That's in the RAM, it's stored in a variable. Okay, and that it's stored in a in memory, and that memory is referenced by this state capitals variable. Okay, it's not as if it's gone. No, it's still within our memory, and really inside our code, any other place in our code, we can still call upon it to use it. Okay, and remember, the state capitals, the original array, it actually has the names of the cities in lowercase letters. Okay, but the clones, that's these two clones that we created for the that's the start point entries and the endpoint entries, are actually clones of the original state capitals, and those clones are actually in uppercase letters. And because they are two different clones, they are two different objects, so changing this one is not going to result in this one changing. Okay, so I think this should bring us to the end of this part of the of lesson 3. So we have actually seen how to populate the combo box for the user interface. Okay, in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead into start coding what happens when this is populated and calculate allowance button is clicked. Okay, all right, I'll see you in the next lesson.